All right, welcome again, everybody, and to the DFIR Python study group. So today we're gonna be talking and working all the way to pretty much half of the, I think it's the sixth chapter, the fifth chapter, no, sixth chapter. Yes, right. See, now I should have looked at before I started talking, right? Yeah, the sixth chapter, storing and manipulating data. All right. So what are we? Let me move this over here. Yep, sixth chapter. So what are we covering today? So there's a lot of new things that we learned, and again, they're not strictly forensic, like digital forensics, but it will help you, and we'll talk about that in a second. So the new things that we learned were the request and the escape, right? And these are functions that come from importing Flask, which is the module we're using that will handle a little web server on our machine that we're using to create this web app, right? An application that's accessible through the internet, or to the, I say internet, but to the web, okay? And we learned to this class, this pages, how to log information from the app, particularly the requests. And this, again, this is out of scope from the class, but quick summary: when a web page asks of a server for information, that's a request. And also the information that's provided from your web browser, so in your browser to the server is part of that request. So one of the things on the internet, when you request a page, you tell their server that's providing that page, you tell it a few pieces of information. For example, the IP that you're coming from, which makes sense, right? You want that server to be able to send you information back. If there's no IP to send information back, then there's no communication, okay? So you provide the IP, you provide the user agent, and a user agent tells the server what browser are you using. Is it Firefox? Is it Internet Explorer, Chrome, whatever it might be. And again, there's a whole bunch of security related issues in regards to spoofing, user agents, what that means, but we're not concerned with that. We're concerned with logging that type of information as folks, users request data from our web application. And to do that, what we're gonna do is we're gonna open a file that's gonna be called a text file. We named it vsearch log, as you see here in line 7. And we're sending the different data, the requests that arrived, okay? A few teaching points. The chapter went through the difference of saying open file versus with open, okay? And as you might remember, I taught you this process of opening files first, because from my perspective, it's the best. When you use with open to open a file, you can do whatever operations you need to that file, and you're done. You don't have to specify the closing of the file. So it kind of saves you, having to remember to close the files when you're done. It will close the file for you. And you might say, well, who cares? Well, it's important. If you're messing with a file and you don't close it properly, when that file might be accessed by another process, there might be some corruptions there and it will mess up your file, okay? So always use with open to be able to work with your files, okay? And the second teaching point is the print. And this is something that I kind of knew, but never really used. Usually when I go and I try to write something, what I use is the write method, log write, and then whatever it is that I'm gonna write here, right? So I could do, variables and different things, right? This is how I'm kind of used to doing it. I didn't know, and I learned in this chapter that you can use the print function to actually send stuff, send data to your log. And the way you do that is you got to specify, the file equals log, which is your handler, so it knows where to write, right? And you can even tell, oh, I want a separator between each of the items, and I am writing to the log, right? So you might think, well, why, what's the difference between writing print and then sending the stuff to the file, or using log and the method write to actually write to the file, okay? Well, again, the book didn't go into this, but I'll say briefly. When you hit print, your the interpreter is going to try to represent, right? Kind of show that as if showing it to the screen, okay? And that's, you know, you might get different results that you might not be expecting because it might not look as you expect it to look. Whereas write, you can specify a thing, and I'm going to go into that today. Some of them I will be on the future. A thing called a codec, which you can then kind of handle the interpretation of what you're writing using a codec. Now, I'm not going to talk about it today. I will. I'm introducing it because codecs will be really important for you. In forensics, we deal with different files, and we might need to apply like a little translator to make that file readable, okay? And those are codecs. Even if, for example, like a video, right? If you have a video player and that video player doesn't know how to play, let's say, an MP4, well, your video player might need a codec to interpret that video properly. You might have a file that you want to write and open as an Excel spreadsheet, whatever. You might need a codec to do that, right? So if we're writing to plain text files, print works fine. I prefer using the write method for using codecs. And we'll discuss that in the future. I'm just kind of introducing the concept of, hey, look, you can print to a file, you can also write to a file. And I say print as in using the print function, okay? I know I said a lot so far. Does that make sense conceptually? If it makes sense conceptually, give me a 1. And if it doesn't, I'll try to rephrase it shorter and better. Okay, I guess
so that makes sense to me. I'm just curious about something. Is
sure,
that how tools like oh man, I'm trying to remember some of the tools I've used. Not Audacity, but there's like Mega something or whatever with all these codecs for like being able to open different kinds of videos. Is this how they kind of work?
Kind of behind the scenes, yes. For example, and if you work child exploitation cases like I have, you know, throughout my whole career, you'll see that people that watch a lot of videos, right? And I mean, not only child exploitation, I say that because of my work, but there are players like VLC that have a lot of codecs already incorporated in their player, right? So they can play a whole bunch of slew of different video formats, right? And for us, from a coding perspective, we can get codecs and apply it to our files to be able to read them properly or write them properly. And I will give an example. Actually, I can do that next class. I have a simple example that I use in my own coding when I'm trying to write a file, a specific file in a specific way, okay? But yeah, long story short, yeah, you're correct.
Yeah. The only thing to remember is that codecs are just translators.
Yes.
Just translate from one format to another, whether it's video to another video, audio to audio, or even base64 to hex. You can use codecs for that.
That's an excellent, and thank you so much. That's an excellent point. And that's when I have to describe it, that's the word I use. A translator just turns it into one thing to another that you're able to understand it, right? If it's a video and you have the codec, you cannot see it. Sometimes you might get audio but not video, but if you put the codec, now you can see the video, but it's still a video, right? It doesn't turn it into something else, you know, so that's absolutely on point comment. All right, so we got our function for log requesting, right? And then we have here the code for viewing the log. Before I get into the viewing the log portion, the book took some time in explaining, which is teaching point number 3, and explaining the logic behind where you put things, okay? So I'm gonna go quickly over that. Remember, it's always necessary to define your function before you use it. So you see here how we're defining our functions and defining our functions and defining our functions, okay? For example, this function log request to actually write the log, it's right here in line 16, okay? And the question the book kind of answer was, okay, where should I put this log request? And it can explain to us the logic behind the script, right? You need to pull out the phrase that you're gonna take the vowels out. You need to pull out the layers you're gonna look for. You need to prepare, right, the title of the page, right? You need to do your operations in line 15. And then when you're done, then you log the request, right? And that's a really obvious example. Like you need to do these things first before you can log them, true. But you'll be surprised when you're coding, and specifically as your code base grows, keep that in mind. How is your program workflow going, right? Am I trying to access things that I haven't prepared for yet? So that's a teaching point I wanted to underline. You gotta prep the data that you will need, lines 12 to 15, before you log it in file 16, okay? And then after it's logged, then the return, as we discussed, it is not new, this is from last class, then you render it to the template on the web page, the results web page, Okay, so that's the teaching point number 3. Be sure to always get the data, process the data, and then you log it. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. Okay, now the last part before we get into the actual forensic portion of the class is the view log. So it went through a whole process on showing us the book, showing us the log kind of in plain text. It looks like a big mess, to eventually takes us so it looks in a really nice readable format. Let me just run it real quick so we can look at it. Let's see here. I think it is. Oh, actually, I use Safari for this example. So and it's 1, 2. There's no play home, but I want the slash. I think it's view log, right? Yep. Okay, so mine only has 1 entry, but and this one is the ugly one. Did I fix it? Let me see here. Oh no, I didn't update. I think I didn't update it. Just hold on for a second, folks. Do I have the latest one? I think I saved it somewhere else. Well, you have to forgive me. So anyways, you'll see here, this kind of looks like ugly looking, but then the chapter went through and showed us how it looks with the proper formatting and columns and stuff like that. Okay, my mistake, I thought I had saved it because I type everything by hand. So make sure if there's any mistakes, I will commit them and then learn from them. But I guess I didn't change this part. I didn't save it, which is fine. That part you can find. I'm gonna refer you to the book on that part. On page 2. Excuse me 1 second. On page 2. Oh man, that's so sad. I thought I had it. On page 277. That's how it looks. It looks good. All right. So I'm gonna stop this part because at the last teaching point, and I won't cover it today because it was my mistake. I thought I had saved the file, and I didn't. The last teaching point was to discuss how the script was placing, and this is not something new. You know this already. You know lists and you know dictionaries, but the book went into have us think, how are we ordering our data? How are we placing it, right? And what the chapter did was, as you might remember from reading it, was creating a list, and inside that list, we're gonna be appending all the items that we're logging. And which is a data pattern that I use a lot in my coding, where I have the data that I need and I put in a list, and then inside of the list, I have chunks of little lists inside of it so I can keep it grouped together. But again, my mistake, I thought I had saved it and I did not. So that part, the last teaching point, we will discuss next class, which will be next Tuesday, okay? Okay, so I apologize for that. All right, now, I'm gonna show you now, changing gears to the forensic application, a new concept. Last class, we talked about plist, and I gave you a function, an easy function to deserialize them and make them into dictionaries. Today, and let me stop the script. Today, I have one for still a plist, but binary plist, specifically binary plist that have NSKey archived formatted data in them. And for the longest, dealing with those files was a big pain in the behind. And there were, they are libraries that help with that. One of them is CCL, which is the one that I use. But Yogesh, Khatri, has come up with a newer, improved version of how to deal with bplists. I'm gonna copy this and put it into the chat because this is something that, well, actually, I'll do a little bit later because I don't want to mess with the recording, but this is something that you will need, you will use. If you're dealing with bplists and NSKey archive files, this is the easiest way of dealing with them. Okay, before I get into showing how that works, I want to show you the code inside what does the magic. And I want to show you that because there's something to be learned from it. Let me go into the Deserializer and let me open the deserializer.py. All right, this is the code that Yogesh did. Notice that the code has imports, the code has functions, which is fantastic. And notice all the way at the end, what do we see? If main equals main, it calls the main function, right? We've seen this pattern before. And if you go into the main function, and the best way of doing that is just by looking for main. There it is. The main function, what does it do? It actually does some checks on some, variables that you're sending, arguments that you're sending as the user. And then it's showing stuff to the screen, right? Prints and prints, it shows stuff to the screen, right? So for example, if I hit run, what did I do wrong here? Oh, I have to fix something here, hold on. What am I doing wrong here? Today, I'm a big mess today. This one's gonna work. Yeah, this one's good, but right. Let me just 1 second here. Oh, I know why it is. Let me just change that. I think it's this. Let me take this out for a second. Let me see if that, it's redundant, but there we go. All right. I'll explain that in a second, what happened there. Okay, so notice when I execute the script, notice how it actually tells me, hey, this program does these things, right? When you execute it on its own, it will provide you with an interface to do things with the program, like a standalone functionality. When you import it, it does not. When you import it, like, and like I'm doing here in that sense, and I run it, since I'm executing it from another script, and this is being imported as a module, the main at the bottom, sorry, I'm going really quick, but the main here at the bottom is not true, right? Name is not going to be main, it's going to be the name of the script. Therefore, all the code in main to kind of have me interface with the program, right? With the helps and all that is not executed. So this is an example of why this coding pattern is important. If you're running the script, running it from its own, like a scope, when the script you execute is this one, the Deserializer, it will show you stuff on the screen. If you don't, because you imported it to another script, the main is not executed, like none of this stuff is executed, and it treats it as a module, which means you as the coder, you can then call all these functions, call them directly from your own script. Does that make sense? And thanks for the link, Brooke. If that makes sense, give me a 1. And what I'm trying to show exactly is the difference between, look, when you import a module, it behaves differently. It will just give you access to the functions. When you run the script itself, then it will give you options to work with the script as a standalone program, right? Or script. No, same thing, okay? All right, I see some 1s, so hopefully that makes sense. If that didn't make sense, hit me up. I will try to explain further or simplify it a little bit. Okay, now, this here, you see, it's kind of small to see, but I have the folder, right? And I have the scripts and everything, like I downloaded it. And you can run it like this, making reference to it when you downloaded it. Well, we also learned that we can, certain scripts, you can pip install them. And Yogesh, I think it's yesterday, he came out with the program in a version that's pip installable, which is this one here. What you need to do is just go pip3 install nska_deserialize, and you're ready to go. So you don't have to really worry about where the script is to import it. Since it's already pip installed, what you need to do is as simple as, hey, just import the Deserializer. In this case, this is how he named it, based on his pip install. And that's it, and you're ready to go, okay? Now, I'm gonna show you 2 bplists, okay? And, one is called library.plist, and the other one is called deliver notification.plist. These are binary lists that are not parsed, at least I don't think they are, parsed by most forensic applications. iLib does it, and I'm gonna show you kind of that process, how I went through it. Notice that I said BP. Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah, we got some comments. Yeah. I think that I know of that's out there. I think iLib that I know of is the only one. All right, so let me show you here the first one. Notice that I said binary list, but the extension is plist. And I say that because if you look at the header straight up, what do you see? the BP list header. All binary plists start like this. Oop, and then I was about to mess it up. There we go. Start like this. BP list 00. So the extension in iOS is plist, but internally it's a binary plist. Okay. Again, binary plist and plist are the same thing in the sense that they're plist. Now look at this. There's a whole bunch of stuff that you can't read and some stuff that you can read, right? And that's the thing with this type of files. So that's why we need to deserialize it. We're gonna turn it into something that we can actually use and take care of this gobbledygook, okay? Since I'm at it, let me show you the other one. The deliver notifications. And again, we got our BP list and all this. I mean, can you imagine giving this to your stakeholder? And there's stuff you can read here. Says Christy Teigen. I guess he's just a star, like some sort of model or something. So there's stuff you can read, but man, making sense of this, right? So how do we go about it using the Yogesh Deserializer? Super easy. So the first example is we're gonna use the old school way of opening files, right? Where we have a variable that's gonna receive be the handler for the file that we're opening. So I hit open library.plist, and I'm gonna read the file as a binary file, right? If I don't use binary, it won't be able to read it properly, okay? Then I'm gonna call my function, the deserializer that Yogesh did, that we imported here in line 1, and I'm gonna provide it the file handler. In my case, is the f variable. And then after it's deserialized, we got a plist, okay? Now, by looking at line 7, who can tell me what are we gonna get from this deserialization process? Are we gonna get a list? Are we gonna get a dictionary? What are we getting by looking at this? Most likely we'll be getting what? You can type it if you know it. All right, we'll be getting a dictionary, right? And it could be, yeah, it could be a tuple as well. So either a dictionary or a tuple. The reason I'm saying that is because, so dictionary and tuple is not incorrect. List, in a sense, it kind of is. So sorry, Brooke, but just because, and there's no shame on that. That's a good guess though. Because you see here, right? We're pulling key value pairs, and when we use the items method, it's because we're pulling key value pairs. Okay, whereas dictionaries, you only have the index location for it. Okay, and I'm gonna type something here. For example, like let's say this list is called plist. If you're a plain list, then it will be like this. We can only access that. Okay. Yeah, no, I'm just kind of messing with you because it's you. All right, so let's run and see what we get, which already is on the bottom. Oh, and by the way, close when you're done. So we hit run, and here we have that list. And if you run it in this way, you have here K, which is your key, and then V, which is the value of that. To make this more clear, let me just put here. Let me just print the plist straight up, so you can see what I mean. And this helps you kind of start visualizing. Right, let me go up. All right, so you see here, right? You see it's a dictionary. We can start with the curly brackets. We got our key and we got our value, right? And based on the research, remember, you're doing this after you've done the research. Based on the research, each folder represents an application, and that's what this plist does. And within each GUID name folder, contains the deliver notification plist for every application, okay? And this is important. If I were to just look and parse only the deliver notification plist, if there's 20 applications that deliver notifications, I'll have 20 of these files all named the same. So how do I know which notification goes to with which app? Well, that I depend on library plist to figure that out. Okay, I can match this application to the GUID name folder that has the deliver notifications. Okay, so I'm saying this, and you don't need to do this. iLeap does it for you, but I say this because sometimes you need to combine knowledge from maybe 2 different data sources to understand what's happening on your artifact that you're analyzing. Okay. Also, you need to understand that when you want to automate it, right? You can't just pull deliver notifications and put the content out because you won't know from which app it came. So you need to figure out what these folders mean, and library plist tells you that. Okay. All right, fair enough. So we know where it comes from, and you can take that into account if you're doing a parser for it. Now, let's go into delivered notifications. This one's a little bit more complicated, which makes it a little bit more fun. I'm gonna print the plist by itself first, because I don't want to give away how it looks after it. Okay, so what we're doing here now, in this case, we're using the better method with open. We got F again as our file handler, again the file and the read as binary, and again we're deserializing. It's the same code, but notice that I don't need to use the close method here, right? Because with handles the closing for me. So after deserialization, I'm gonna get a plist. I'm gonna deserialize my plist. So what do we expect to get? Well, based on the previous, maybe a dictionary. Let's run it. I'm gonna go up, and this is the part that's interesting. When you understand Python, this makes sense to you. Notice this deserialization process, this particular plist, what we have is a what? Can you see that? Let me see if I can zoom it in. I don't know if I can. What is this? A bracket, right? And if it's a bracket, what data structure are we working with now? A list, perfect. And right after that, we got a squiggly bracket. That means that's a what? A dictionary. So we got now a list that has dictionaries in them. And me not knowing anything else, I know that at least whatever's in here is gonna be in position 0 of my list. So at a minimum, if I do this, I should get the first entry of this data is inside this first index location in my list. Let's print it and see what happens. Okay, there we go. Notice we have the same data, but now it's within that list, right? So now we don't have those squiggly brackets. What if there's another? I mean, the question then becomes, are there any other index locations in this plist? The way I do it sounds kind of dumb, but look how easy it is. I just hit 1 just to test. Oops. Oh, there we go. You see, you notice now a pattern. Notice this. The first index location had an app notification message that we can read. And then the second index location, which is location number 1, has also an application message with a different message. So that tells me that each index location is related to what? To a particular individual message, or I should say notification. If that makes sense, give me a 1. And I'm walking you through the logic process, right? And this is kind of like the quick and dirty way of me kind of exploring that plist. But if you're going to be fancy about it, you should just iterate through the list, iterate and see what you get, right? Which is, I mean, again, it's not hard to do. We do it in the next line. But again, I'm kind of showing you this because if I'm going to do a quick analysis and I know this is a list, I want to see pretty much there's a pattern within each cell or each index location in my list. Okay, so with that knowledge, we know that each index location has inside a dictionary, right? So it's pretty much a list that's full with dictionaries, right? A list of dicks, right? It was a missed opportunity that they didn't call it bags, but it's a list. So that's how we're gonna call it. So what's up with the next piece of the code? Notice now that since I know it's a list, I'm gonna, for each, I'm iterating, right? For each, and use the variable k, for each index location, now I'm gonna go and open my dictionaries. Okay? Does that make sense? So I discovered in line 14 that this is a list. So I'm iterating it as we iterate any list. And then what's inside of it, I know it is a dictionary, right? So in my dictionary that I'm pulling out is the K, right? I'm gonna look for the key values, okay? And I'm gonna now show you. Okay, so, oh, actually make it a little bit nicer. Let me put up empty print here. Okay, so check this out. Well, I'm actually separating each value. Sorry, I already had the print in the bottom. Okay, there we go. So notice this. Let me go to the top. I have my key and my value. And if this is kind of crappy to kind of read, that's fine. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put a little line in between the values there. See if that makes it a little bit more readable. Oops, what am I doing? Oh, sorry about that. Actually, let me just use the way that I should have done it from the beginning, which is using a proper F string. Let me not be so lame. All right. Oh, I'm missing the, there we go. All right, so to the top, you see, you have your key and the value, and then you have your key and the value. So we're like 90% where we need to be, okay? We're gonna, and by the way, you're gonna see all these are related to each other. Oh, interestingly enough, look at this one. This key, the value is what? Another dictionary. So it's a dictionary inside a dictionary, okay? Keep that in mind. Don't forget about that. I'll come back to it in a second. All this information here is related to one message, and there's a space. That space there comes from this print in line 26. So notice, for every dictionary in each index location, I'm printing everything in it, and when I'm done, I'm printing a space to the screen. Why? Because when this loop executes again, it will give me the next index location and all the data that's related to that notification until it's done, and then it hits the print, and then it repeats again, right? So that way, you're looking at all the dictionaries for each single message that has been received. Now, most of this stuff, you don't care. Look at all this stuff here. Like, I don't care about any of this. Some stuff you do care. I'm gonna, like a good cooking show, I'm gonna just show you the stuff that we're gonna care for this example. I only care for the key app notification message, which is the first one, because that's what the message, the notification message is. I care about the creation date, when it was created, and I care about the title, okay? Notice that we're using ifs, and this is nothing new to you. If my key equals this, print out the value, which is M, from that dictionary. If is this, do this. If is this, do that, okay? And when we run it, now we have a really nice, oh, I need to delete the this part here. Oh, not delete, comment out. Okay, there we go. So if I do that, I get a nice, really clean collection of items. I got my app notification message, I got the creation date right here, and I got the title. And I didn't put a semicolon on the title, a colon, sorry, on the title. There we go. Let me keep it just here. You notice that, everybody? Sorry about that comment there. I just couldn't help it. All right. So anyways, so does that make sense? So look how neat this is, right? Now I can report on this. I can then write it to a file using a logging functionality that we learned from the book, or do whatever we need with it. And the hard part was the deserialization process, and you don't have to deal with that. The module that Yogesh worked on and provided to us does the hard work for us, okay? As simple as that. Notification all the way to the end, and creation date. And notice that you might see, well, some of them don't have titles, and that's true. Some of them might not have to, and that's fine. That's something that you will consider depending on how you want to report on it. Now, I showed you that some of the lists are, actually, let me just control C it. Some of the lists are, oops, have a dictionary inside of it, okay? This will be your this will be your homework, okay? Let me show you this. what I want you to do is look for the key UN notification user info, and I want you to go in and pull a few things out. I would like you to pull the screen name, pull out the full name, and lastly, where is it? For bonus points, pull out the, where is it? If there's a video, yeah, pull out the video URL. And this is for bonus because it's a little bit more complicated. You have to do a couple of operations. So you're gonna provide a bag of dictionaries, yes. So hopefully that makes sense. That's the homework, right? This will be like this is the challenge, right? We have already pulled out app notification message, creation date, and title. But I want you to go to this key if it's available and pull out again the screen name, the full name, and the video. If there's a URL for it, then pull that out. Okay. Right. If the homework is intelligible, give me one. I'm catching up the chats now. See, it had to be NTFSW. Yeah, I can't. All right. So we got some ones. All right. Yes, I will. Yeah, that's a great point, Brooke. I will post the narrative of the homework. Now, Discord already has the files that you need, though. I'm actually doing an update now on Discord. All right, there we go. Come on. All right. You can see here on Discord, you have the files that I'm showing are here on the NSKey archive _files.zip. So the same files I'm working off. Here's the Deserializer. If you want to import it, like not import it, but if you want to download the folder with all the scripts in it, right? This is the link. If you want to pip install it, this is where you need to go, the second link. So you can hit pip install and go forth from it, okay? And in a few seconds, I'm gonna write what the homework is. Again, one last time, pull out, in addition to what I already did, screen name, full name, and the video URL. And actually make a little log or report, text file, nothing fancy. And that will be it. Any questions? If we're good on this, give me a one more time. Oh yeah, Yogesh did a fantastic job, Jay, saying that the Deserializer is a gift, and it is. It makes your life so much easier. Awesome. I'm gonna also work on it. I haven't solved it yet, but I will, and I will share my solution. If you want to share your solution to this on Discord, please, by all means, do. And if you have questions, post them, and everybody can go and help out, and I'll help out as well. All right, so that's all I got for today. Thank you so much. I'm gonna stop the recording now.